Welcome back, everybody, to We Are TPM. This is our spooky podcast, spooky season.
Halloween edition.
You have Kyle Teixeira and John Teixeira.
I'm trying to create spooky music right now.
In honor of our recording this on October 31st, aka Halloween. We are going to be discussing this week the scary things about renting your home.
Frightening.
The spooky, frightening parts about renting your home. And if you have any questions or have any demons in your home and want us to rent them out or evict them, give us a call, 817-818-9039. Shoot us an email at showmethemoney@wearetpm.com. Let's get into it. It will be November by the time you hear this. But today is Halloween.
But we've given ourselves carte blanche to do the Halloween dad joke thing, right? All we want. We could just sit here and the Halloween dad joke ourselves to death, right?
I am having another kid next month, so I'm getting double whammy at dad abilities. All right, to make dad jokes.
I love it. All right, Kyle. What's the spooky things about renting your home? What should scare people that we need to discuss?
I'm not saying it should scare people. Let's premise this correctly. These are just the things that do scare people. The first one is the tenants from the underworld.
Oh, I like this one.
The tenants from the underworld.
I like this one. Where do we get tenants from the underworld, do you think?
I mean, it's every landlord's worst nightmare. Bad tenants.
Ghostly.
Tenants. This is just bad tenants. I mean, they're in the underworld because they're bad.
I love it. We're gonna find them all. I love it. I hope we do. Hey, bad tenants. Bad tenants
who don't pay. We got tenants who don't pay and stay.
Bad tenants is a real thing.
Yeah.
How do you keep from getting bad tenants? Don't do a bunch of the stuff we've talked about in past podcasts, right? Don't take cash. Make sure you screen really well. Know who you're putting in your home. And the best way to do it is find somebody that knows how to screen and manage the property for you to do it for you. That's the best way to protect yourself, in my opinion. And I don't just say that because I'm a property manager. I honestly believe that's the best way as a property owner to protect yourself from ghostly, scary tenants.
Yeah, first, the step to protecting your house from becoming a haunted house is what are our lines of defense or screening, right? Screening, rent history, because you don't ever want underworld.
I'm trying to correlate it with the haunted house.
It's all right.
I'm trying to bring it into the haunted house thing.
People get it. Tenants from the underworld. So next one is the ghostly repairs that never end, right? They're the undead repairs.
People are worried about this all the time, don't they? I'm gonna have to do this and that all the time. Is that true?
I mean, no, you don't ever have to do repairs, honestly.
Well, okay.
Let the place fall apart. Caught you off guard there.
You did. So if we're gonna try to bring some serious conversation into this ghostly nightmare of a podcast, then repairs really are dependent on what you have. You're the product you have, right? And how you've maintained it up to that point, right? So if you have a house that you've completely renovated it, you did it well, then you shouldn't have a lot of repairs, right? It should just be normal minor maintenance. If you have a newer home, it should just be normal minor maintenance. If you have an old home you haven't taken care of, it's had a tenant in a long time, it already needs rehab, you're not looking at it or paying attention to it, because we've had those, I say that from experience, then those are going to seemingly have never-ending repairs because they never get reset with a new renovation and then go. It's easier to...
No, they're cursed.
Easier to maintain
they're cursed.
A property than to fix the curses.
Your property there are no curses on properties. There's just bad scenarios, right?
Bad scenarios, yeah.
Lack of preventative maintenance, lack of perspective, so not
I'm trying so hard to find spooky terms for things like
deferred maintenance. It might come back to bite you.
I thought this would be easier to find spooky terms. It's not. I don't know.
Well, let's get spookier. The third point is those vanishing rent payments.
Vanishing rent payments.
They be slicking out of here.
Just go away. Just go away.
You're sliding through.
This is a real fear, isn't it? Like, I'm not going to get paid. What happens if I don't get paid? So My
Well,
answers.
I like the perspective here. Is like this is the scary part when rent payments go missing. You know, tenants just lose them. You know, they lose
They do, don't
track.
they?
They just lose track of
I've
them.
got $1,000 for you. I'll bring it Monday. What happened to you on Monday? We didn't see you on Monday. Well, that $1,000 vanished.
No, I've been asking people lately, like, which payroll company and bank do you use? Because your clearance
their
times
payroll
are
checks
insane. It takes like 9 days for your check to clear. I just want to know, so I don't ever use them.
I don't know,
So
man. Yeah, to your point, I don't know. I'm not old, but I'm old enough to. I've been around a few decades. I've been working since I was 14 years old. I've been getting a paycheck. I've never once had one just like disappear. They didn't send it. It didn't work. It bounced.
I don't know, man.
I've never had that happen to me ever.
They always seem to get paid by ADP, the biggest payroll company in the world. And
And somehow they don't know how to do it anymore.
No, I don't know how they're the biggest payroll company in the world. It takes them like 7 days based on their customers' experience.
I don't think we're helping people solve their fear of vanishing rent payments right now.
Well, no, we were just telling you the fears. You know, these things are real. But
But to your
in
point,
all seriousness, the vanishing rent payments is the people who stop paying rent. You know, they stop paying rent, and then inconsistent rent can throw off your cash flow, your ability to pay your mortgage. These are the things that people do get scared of, and it's like the other one. It's like preventative is one huge part that people commonly don't take into consideration being a landlord. Like, you should have at least an extra month's rent for your mortgage saved up so that it doesn't affect your personal cash flow. And if you're not doing that, you're not treating it like a business. You know, we talk a lot about treating all these things like a business. Paying your mortgage is kind of like paying your employees. You know, are you going to sit there and make sure are you going to go paycheck to paycheck on it and then lose all your employees?
It's a business, and that's the rent to your business. You got to pay it, right?
Yeah.
So I like what you said there, Kyle, but I want to take it back even further. The way to prevent this fear, okay? The way to this fear is real, okay? And the way to prevent it is, first step is better screening, like we talked about before, right? But things happen to people. So having an intentional collection process that you stick to and you don't waver from, period.
Yeah, clear agreement with your renters. And this is true for property managers and for landlords, I think, is the wavering is what gives, people take advantage of the longest leash they have, especially when finances get tight. So don't be that longest leash.
Yep. You're only not going to get rent on a home that I manage probably for at most 60 days. Take 20 to 30 days to get them out. Another 15 to 20 to get it ready and rented, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the ideal world.
What's the spooky part of get them out? What do we call that? Eviction curse. The curse of evictions.
Is that our next thing? Are we moving on to our next thing already?
The curse.
The curse of eviction. Well, before we do that, I wanted to also mention that to your, because you made a good point about saving, and I've been reminding people of this that I thought knew this a lot lately, and that is you should have a separate account for your rental property or properties. So I don't care whether you have a separate account for each property or one account for all your properties. It doesn't matter. But people that bring their rent payment into their household finances and then have to find $1,200 for a water heater, those people are stressed all the time. And they're spending the rent payment. It becomes part of their household income. And then when things happen, they don't know where to get the money from. And I need my money on the first so I can pay my mortgage and yada, yada. You get it.
Or a water heater and an HVAC.
Separate account.
In the same year. After 15 years, that happens.
So try to explain to people that not only does it get it away out of your household expenses, but it also allows you to see how that home is building short-term wealth for you, right? While you're owning the home, and then when you have a hit, like a repair, like we talked about, then it doesn't hurt so bad because it hit that account and not your personal savings. And
you can do yourself one even better and compound those earnings and make it let it sit in a money market account or something that's earning interest on top of that. So,
yes, sir. All right, on to the eviction curse.
Well, in the theme of this podcast, I think we should call this the exorcism. The
exorcism. I like it.
Of the underworld.
I like it. We're exercising. Okay.
Well, it's the eviction. It starts the same way. So, this scares people. Scares people because there is a lot of uncertainty where it comes from eviction, and all these things are leading up to this can affect how bad of an impact evictions can be. This is why you need to understand your laws of the property you live in or that you're renting, and have these lease agreements that are well written out. The screenings and the payments, all these things we've already discussed, are so important because they can extend this timeline and aka this pain of an eviction curse or of this exorcism very to a huge degree. So if you didn't screen and then it's a month or two that you let them move in where you realize you didn't, maybe there was some fraud or something, and now you had a payment arrangement that you let go 2-3 months instead of 2-3 weeks. That eviction curse starts on the day that the process starts. So you can only get out of it the timelines of your local laws, I should say.
Yeah, no, even landlords that have several properties, right? They have 5-10 properties, something like that. That isn't even enough experience to take away this fear, this scariness of eviction. Mm-hmm. When you start going down the road of eviction, what do I do? Am I doing it right? What are the steps? Have they changed since I did it 4 years ago? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it seems overwhelming. To you and I, we do it. Unfortunately, we have to do it often. So we stay on top of the changes. We know exactly how to do it. Unfortunately, the judges even know us in our courtroom. So it's easy for us to do because it's second nature, just like anything else in life, right? Like getting in a car is second nature. But when you were 15 years old and you sat in that car for the first time next to your mom and dad and they were trying to teach it, it was rather overwhelming and scary, right? And now you do it like it's nothing. It's the same exact thing. To a landlord, the thought of doing this and going through this process seems absolutely overwhelming, and nobody likes courtrooms except me.
And I've seen in hearings, landlord waits for this hearing, gets to that day, and judge sits and seeing it on their face, they realize their case is getting thrown out because of something that really had nothing to do right. with the case. They just didn't do it right, and now they have to refile it, and tenant gets another 30 days or whatever, all because, something on the petition was wrong, or the notice to vacate was delivered incorrectly, or they're jumping down your throat about something, right? And, there's a lot of counties, a lot of courts where you will have a legal aid there these days helping the tenant, so they could have a lawyer that knows what they're talking about, mm-hmm. and maybe you don't. So it's always important to, not just understand, but execute that process correctly so that it doesn't become something crazy. Because, you could try an exorcism yourself, but I think most people in most movies I've seen have called the experts. Even if you do
it successfully, that's not really the point here. The point is throughout the process, it's scary, isn't it? When you don't know the process, even if you walk through it successfully and you step through it and you're not sure each step of the way that you're doing it the right way, and you might get to the end and be successful and go, oh gosh, but it might have taken you longer, might have been more stressful, it might have, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is what people fear. And then they look back on it and go, oh man, I don't ever want to do that again. Well, shoot, I don't have any problem doing it again. I'm probably be doing it again tomorrow. Don't we have court tomorrow?
I did it right before this podcast.
Oh, so. Yeah. All right. So my point being, I mean, that the scary part of it is still scary even when it's successful. I could have just left it at that, huh?
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Well, what's the next one? A lot of people talk about this one, is when Casper comes through with a hammer and decides to bash in your house. The unseen horror of property damage, what you can and can't see, because you don't live every day in that house. You're just renting it out. Someone who does.
What is that movie people like to refer to, the Money Pit? The Money Pit. Is it the Money Pit? Yeah, it's the Money Pit.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Are we
Anyways,
talking about
never mind.
boats? I thought you were changing the topic to boats for a
No,
second.
I
You said
wasn't.
money pit,
No.
so
Yeah, well,
uh,
boats are a money pit. That's for sure. You know that because you own 2 of them now. Lucky you.
whoa.
Anyways, property damage. Uh, all properties could have unseen horror, right? And it is difficult when tenants are living in it and they're not going to tell you everything. So, like here in North Texas, we deal with foundations, right? It's not something everybody deals with, but we're on gumbo. And if our tenants are living in a home for 7 or 8 years and there's no sprinkler system and they're not good at watering the foundation around the home, is a high likelihood that you could have foundation problems in that home. And the tenant is a high likelihood they're not going to tell you about it unless you have systems and processes along the way to learn about it. In our case, we do regular inspections that enlighten us to this problem if it's happening. We try to put soaker hoses on homes that don't have sprinklers. So we have some systems to try to avoid that, just using this example. But there's other examples, isn't there?
Well, yeah, I mean, landscaping in Texas is a big one, because there's a lot of maintenance that goes into the landscapes around in this area because we get through these heat waves that even if you upkeep it 9 months out of the year, this heat wave can destroy landscaping, and that's a huge fear that people have in our area.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, processes to check on those things and incentivize them to be taken care of, as far as like that's why we take security deposits and like you said, inspections and catch these issues. So I think because even when people are perfect on paper, this is the hardest thing to vet, right? You could have the best paying tenant, great credit background, all this stuff, all the things you can check on paper are great, even good rental history, supposedly, but they don't take care of the property a lot of times. So, or not, I say a lot of times, where that's the hardest thing to vet is how well they will take care of the property. So you want to have checks and balances for that.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. What's the next horror?
Well, just everyone's afraid of getting sued, so we'll call it the haunting legal, the legal haunting. But I don't know. This one's not big for me because I think that most tenant landlord lawsuits involve either evictions or repairs. So repair suits and stuff not getting fixed, and if it gets to that point, like we've never had a property get to that point. That'd just be complete neglect in most cases.
Yeah, it would, but I do think that this calls out a common fear people have when they don't know, right? They don't know what the housing laws are or how they're supposed to, like they may know that there's certain locks that are supposed to be on there, but they don't know exactly how it is, or I think this really addresses an overall fear of just not knowing what their legal obligation is as a landlord, and not necessarily something that's going to get you to a lawsuit, but just understanding what you're supposed to be doing along the way in that process. Do I have the right lease, right? Can I enforce this lease? What am I allowed to do? What am I allowed to put in my lease regarding repairs, late fees, all those things? There's definitely housing standards that are laid out in each country, and there's also some federal guidelines. I'm sorry, I said country, I meant state. There's also federal guidelines that people want to know, and I just think since you're not in the business, thinking of it from a landlord that has 1 or 2 houses, if you're not in the business, then this would be a legitimate fear. What don't I know?
Yeah, because, I mean, and we've seen that a lot. I've seen that in court a lot, that people think just because you write it in a contract and both parties sign it, that it's binding and it has to be followed. Well, in most things, that is true. Contracts are contracts. But in things that fall under federal rules and fair housing law and property code, stuff like that, your contract cannot supersede property code. It cannot supersede federal law, even if you put it in writing. Like, I've seen people get thrown out in court because they wrote it in their contract that that they would only need a 1-day notice, or that they could basically supersede property code. There are ways to do that, I will admit, but there's federal laws. For this specific case was there was a federal mandate against a certain timeline. Well, you can't just supersede that with a contract. That's why they do it. So knowing that you can't do that, knowing that you can't put certain tenant responsibilities in the contract is also important. I've seen landlords make tenants responsible for certain parts of property maintenance or certain things that they just legally can't do. So, I mean, yeah, there's people who get away with it, but, you know, when somebody comes and checks it, so it's always good for both parties to know what they're signing, so it doesn't turn into like a haunted situation, right?
Haunting legal obligations.
Haunting legal obligations. Okay, so to end this, I say basically doing things properly, or overcoming these fears, and really the knowledge that we've talked about here is a way to turn fears into fortune.
You know what? I try not to do this too much. I try to make this a really educational podcast, but I want to say what I'm thinking, okay? And so what I'm thinking is find somebody really good to do this for you, period. Like, that solves all of these problems almost every single time. If not, if you're going to refuse to do this, then you need to learn how to be that person and do all of these things. You need to get the systems and the know-how and the processes to be able to do all of these things we've talked about correctly, from screening to maintenance coordination to inspections, contracts, right? All of it, everything involved in managing your property. There's a lot. The amount of time it would take for somebody to go and figure that out, to do it right. Anybody can do it. Everybody's got Google, right? Everybody's got YouTube. But to me, why do I want to figure out how to dig a ditch when I can pay somebody to dig a ditch so I can go start my next project? You know what I mean? And it's the same thing.
Time value proposition for sure. So you know,
if you see the value in doing this one, then you should see the value in doing the next one, right? So instead of focusing on your time on this one, have somebody that knows what they're doing, that already has these systems and processes in place to do it for you, and you go start focusing on where's the next one coming from.
You're going to have a portfolio of haunted houses? Or you're gonna have a
Yes, I like it.
Of cash flowing assets. Because one of those is not spooky.
I like it. Very good. It's a spooky situation that we just turned into a wealth building situation.
Yep.
Love it.
All right. Well, if you guys have any questions about anything spooky in real estate, we're probably not your guys, but we can relate them together very well. So just give us a call, 817-818-9039. Shoot us an email, show me the money. WeAreTPM.com. Happy Halloween, and we are out.
We go.